Hey everyone, welcome back. Betsperts Golf 2023 Honda Classic preview. We'll see how much Honda Classic we can talk about. There's lots of other stuff going on in the world of golf that I would love to chop it up here with my friend. Joining me as always, Andy Molitor. How we doing?
Good, yeah, and we'll get to a lot of other stuff today, but we would be remiss not to talk about the course. Like it's funny, yes, the field sucks, and nobody showed up because it's like a built-in bye week. But like this is a crazy good course. This is a course that was originally
Yeah.
built to host majors. We've had a Ryder Cup here. We've had a U.S. Open or a PGA back in the day. Like it's been, obviously been remodeled quite a bit by Nicholas over the years, but I mean, this is one of the toughest courses on tour. It's crazy that we're basically getting like the Barbasol field here because when they go play on what's the one the week before John Deere, like you go play John Deere and it's a course. Excuse me, it's a field that's going to be similar to this field. It's going to be horrid. Last year, I think it was dead last. Maybe up there with Barbasol, but Barbasol's technically an alt event since they have the Scottish Open that week. But it's like that, except that's a shit easy TPC course in Illinois. Like this is a legit course. This is gonna be interesting because it hasn't always been, a great field, but it's always been better than this. So this is gonna be a weird week where there might just be 2-3 guys where it's like, oh, you guys are really good golfers, and a couple other guys putt well, and we have like almost like in a Tour de France where you have this a small group like breakaway where it's like, oh, you can actually play at this level of golf on a tough course, and you could score -10 here.
This always used to be the place too where we would get the debut for a lot of the like Euro guys that we like that didn't make a lot of the California trips. A lot of these guys have secondary houses in the Florida area, or they would come over if they still call England home. But yeah, that was always exciting to say that for. Am I spinning you?
What's that?
I thought I was spinning on you a little bit with the
No,
interwebs.
that's just me. I have like 9. I'm doing golf stuff this morning. I have 900 tabs open. I just closed like 14 of them. That's going to help quite a bit. But no, it is.
Well, what's
it
the
was
side
kind
effects of these elevated events, right? So these elevated events, we just got insane fields. We have Rahm winning 2 of the first 3. They had a major field. I mean, the leaderboard on Sunday at the Genesis Taurus.
I think you might be glitching a little now. That actually, I thought it was me.
Incredible.
But yeah, the side effect is you get weird spots in the schedule like this, and anyone who bets tennis kind of knows this thing too, where you have these 250s that come right before slams, and it's like, oh man, everybody got warmed up 2 weeks ago. Everybody's working with other stuff later in the week. And they take this week off. This is what we mean by like a built-in buy. It's so we had 2 in a row, essentially. Like the Phoenix Open, there's a $20 million purse. And if anybody doesn't understand the purses, for reference, the Masters purse is $15 million. So you had a $20 million purse at the Phoenix Open. You have a $20 million purse at the Genesis. Next week at Bay Hill, Arnold Palmer, $20 million. And then the week after that is the Players, which is even more, $25 million. And then this week it's $8 million, 8.4 to be exact. So it does kind of create this weird buy. Not only is it so much less money to be made for some of these golfers, it's also the spot where you have to travel across, and it's not like you're walking across the damn country. The big guns are. We all watched, episode 1 of Full Swing. Not everyone flies private, but if you've won a major, you're flying private quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, I was down at Phoenix. The amount of private jets that were flying overhead and a lot of that had to do with the Super Bowl. But it's not that difficult. But it is a spot where you are doing some traveling, and then you're making the adjustment from West Coast POA to kind of the Bermuda part of the season. So it's kind of a really easy week to just say, I'm going to go hang out with some people I know in Florida. I'm going to go visit my vacation home. I'm going to play the course that is adjacent to my house in Florida rather than going up to PGA National. And then, in 2 weeks, I'm going to go back at it and find another $20 million pot to be had, and two of them in a row. And so instead of playing 5 straight weeks, I mean, that's kind of what you're getting here. And it is what it is. That's what we're going to get now. I do hope, obviously you're not going to say, hey, the Players is now a shitty event, or downplay Genesis, hopefully not, but it's a spot where I do hope they shift around which events are elevated now and then, just to, like, once in a while, maybe you'd have to do it to the Genesis, maybe shift the Genesis to Honda to get a good field in Florida instead. I'd hate to see a good event like this slowly die if they keep it in a spot like this, because it is a great course.
We kind of saw it already with Torrey Pines, right? Like Torrey, that field was not what we would want it to be historically. And I do think there is talk about shifting the designated events, making them, kind of share the load a little bit, but we'll always kind of have this. I feel like this is the worst spot on the schedule this year. We're coming off of 2. We have 2 on deck. Like you mentioned, you make that first initial swing to Florida. Like, this is just a really tough spot. And as you mentioned too, because it is a tough track, it's also a very easy spot to be like, man, I don't want to get my face kicked in, first time down in Florida too. I need a week off, get myself ready, just ease into it a little bit. So I get why we're here. The interesting thing to me, Andy, is like, we talked about this a lot. I do a lot of work going into the weekend to try to, once we get idea, and oftentimes we know who's going to be in the event. Like, okay, I kind of have an idea on some of these guys. I have a really nice spot for Keith Mitchell. I was annoyed Keith Mitchell's playing really good golf at the Genesis, because I'm like, oh, Keith's going to blow up his number for next week. Oh, Sam Ryder's playing really well. This has been a nice spot for Sam Ryder. He likes playing in Florida too. Surprised how well he's playing. Gary Woodland, nice course history here. We like Woodland in this type of spot, less than driver. And then none of these guys are in the field. So that's like the third tier golfer, fourth tier golfer. Even those guys are like, you know what? Yeah, a win gets me into these spots, but like, a win's hard to do. I can go out and cash a T20, T30, and that's as good as getting a T10 at the Honda, which is just kind of a wild spot. So that's kind of where we are. And that's, look at Honda. Honda's pulling their sponsorship. Honda, this is our last year of this being the Honda Classic. That's how frustrated the fine folks at Honda are. So there's a lot of variance in this event, and it's going to be interesting to break down here.
Yeah, and let's start with the course, because we will belabor the field the whole time. But I do want to start with the course, and we don't mention this enough, but very good outright, not outright, just overall a comprehensive preview by Ron. Published apparently at about 2 a.m. last night. He was up late. Ron's been working on a lot of other projects, so he got a little behind this week, and I don't care. It's the Honda week. So, but very good preview put out by him, and a lot of good notes on there. I have notes from last year, but I still add from some of the stuff he wrote. And this is it's likely one of the toughest courses that's not going to be a major this year. Like, this is a very tough course. It's a par 70. That should be a little easier. It's only 7,100, but it's going to play longer because of some of the wind you're going to catch in your face, especially the way one of the par 5s faces. It's often like you're not getting here in 2 just because of the wind. A lot of the par 3s are super difficult. I think all the par 3s play over par. I believe it's just the 2 par 5s, and then the 2 easiest par 4s play under par, and that's it. So, I mean, for a basically an alt event, it's a super tough course. And Ron said this in the article. I wrote this one down. Toughest non-major course on the PGA Tour 7 of the past 10 seasons. So if you want to see some guys just absolutely duffing it because of the level of golfers that's going to get in here, this is the week for you. And like I mentioned, it's a par 70, so you do get only the 2 par 5s to score on. If you're catching the wind on those, it's going to be a day where a 69, a 70 is a pretty good score. traditionally you only see people score about, I think 8, 9, 10 under is probably the winning score here. It's not going to be a day where you're going to see some 63s or, even the fact that it's a 70, it's going to be hard to get down to the mid 60s for anybody. But, and again, I don't remember the golfer who said it, but it was a quote in Ron's article saying like, he didn't mind this sort of course, this sort of challenge, because it's one of those where you don't need to have a 62 and then like a 64, in some of these events where you have to have two just real snazzy scorecards to get in contention. He's like, as long as you're not ejecting, you're kind of in contention. It just takes a couple of half decent days. But yeah, there's a ton of water. And finally, yeah, that's the biggest feature of this course besides the heavy bunkering. I think if it weren't for the water, we'd be talking about how many bunkers there are, how many hazards, but there are so many water. There's so many water hazards. Basically, I think the bear trap is both par threes across the water and then the tough four, which is tricky, but there's water hazard on like eight of the 18 approach shots. You'll cross a water hazard. That's a lot. I mean, your second, third, or, in the case of the par fours, 8 of the 18 shots into the greens, you'll have to cross a water hazard. So if it's windy, if you're inaccurate with your irons, like that's how you eject here. There's plenty of ways to eject, but the easiest one is to put 3 balls in the water. God, I just brought that up yesterday when I was talking about why I bet on. So I bet on Ben Griffin. That was my first click. I got like a 66, something along those lines. And I looked, I'm like, he should have made every cut. It was basically just one crazy ejection hole where he went water, water, water. He's laying 5 on the tee box in a par 5, and he gets to the green in like 7 or 8. It was horrid. But sometimes that shit happens. So I did bet Ben Griffin.
And you mentioned the wind too. Like it's not even like if there's wind every year. It's just a matter of like, where you are in the rounds. And I remember last year I got burned here with a pre-tournament on Shane Lowry, who just got caught up in like, I don't know, just torrential downpour in like the last 3 holes. It just totally wrecked he and Berger at the end. And Sepp Straka was able to kind of, like you said, grind it out, not find the water, just kind of, keep your ball dry. And that's a huge, huge piece of it here. You don't have to go nuclear. You just like pars is a good score. You put it together a handful of 1 under, 2 under rounds, and you're in pretty good shape. You're in nice in contention here. So yeah, the field is rough as you mentioned, but it's too bad because we shift to NBC this week as well. NBC with the ties to the Golf Channel. I think we get really good coverage of this place. We're going to hear about the Golf Trap or the Bear Trap all the time. Like it's a great place to showcase. It just is, unless you're like a real golf hardo like we are, it can be hard to watch on Sunday because we don't really know who's going to be in that mix, right? Comparatively to what we've had of late.
Speaking of golf hardos and terrible events, I was looking at and we did this earlier in the year when you were talking about trying to make it down to the PGA since it's not far from you. I was thinking about avoiding my family for a couple weeks because the kids drive me nuts in the summer. I'm thinking about this is like a solo road trip where I'm just on the road covering golf and gambling for 2 weeks, where I drive down to the John Deere, spend the whole week there. Maybe I'm even camping. I don't know. Maybe I just bring a tent. Maybe I'm just gambling from the wilderness, man. Yeah. I go to the John Deere and then I follow that up, head down to Kentucky to Cherry Creek or wherever for the Monday qualifier of the Barbasol. And then I spend the week at the Barbasol. But you spend the week at the Barbasol, what else are you doing? You're going to whiskey tastings. Obviously, I'm going to like 9 distilleries every day. So it's things are percolating in my head around some just horrible events that are within driving distance of me.
I respect it. I want to go down to the Tour Championship, which is the opposite of that. That would be, 30 of the world's best. But yeah, I mean, I can get down on Q School on Mondays or whatever we need to get going there.
I've always wanted to go to a Monday qualifier because it's always just that it's not a.
You should tee it up at one.
It's one of the. It's like $250, and I'm so bad. Like that's essentially just burning. I might get featured by Monday Q. A case of the golfs where he posts someone's score. This guy shot 140. Like he just burned his money. So. But yeah, I would. Oh, Keeneland too. That's a good call too. They'll have meets at that point of the season at Keeneland. I could hit some horse tracks. This is really probably going to come together. My wife's going to be so mad when I just leave for 2 weeks. Either way, I'm not going to Honda. I won't be able to make it to the PGA. I'll be on vacation that week too. You'll have to handle our business down there. But I did, before we get into who we bet and why we bet them, I wanted to go over some of Ron's stats and kind of talk about what you are, what you're incorporating the most this week.
Yeah.
As always, approach is super important. We talk about that. He really, and Ron in his preview went over the off the tee stuff pretty extensively. It's a weird spot where driving distance doesn't matter because you're clubbing down so much with these forced layups, dog legs, spots where there's, again, the hazards are forcing you to club down. But people who have good driving distance have done well here. Now, it's not always like they did well because they have good driving distance. Sometimes it's just because they're good off the tee. It translates to maybe some accuracy with the lesser clubs, or I'm not sure, but it was something that kind of piqued my interest. But he basically just said approach is obviously more important than anything here, with all the tricky second and third shots into these greens over these water hazards, and then bogey and double bogey avoidance, which I think that before I like to come up with all the stats I'm using, and then I look at the end of his article, see where we're agreement on. And I thought double bogey avoidance right away, just because, again, this was a spot too. And this is from his article. Over the past 5 years, the field has averaged 2.42 double bogeys or worse per 72 holes, which ranks the most of any course on tour. So if you played 72 holes here on average, and some of these guys are only going to play 36, you're averaging 2.5 doubles or worse, which is not a good way to compete. So double avoidance is huge for me here. He has a par 4 scoring, just because we do have a higher percentage of par 4s with the par 5s gone. He went scrambling, which I think is going to be important too. Bermuda putting, some course comps, and then proximity between 125 and 200. And then 3-putt avoidance too, which I'm a little lighter on, but he did that have that at the end of his list. I don't know what are you using that up weighting compared to the average tour event this week?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything that's different than those things. Par 4 scoring, it does matter, because you mentioned we're dealing with kind of a short, par 70. You got to be able to make some head on the par 4s. There's fewer par 5s and they are tough. So good drives is something that I have factored into, because hopefully, again, just a combination of getting green regulation, giving yourself an opportunity to 2-putt here, get a par, striking in general, covering all those proximity ranges, scrambling, bogey avoidance. So yeah, just this. I think the key part here is like, because we again weak field, do we go with a combination of like form, short-term form to differentiate here, or do you just go like as long-term form as possible to just kind of really separate class? Because even though it's a weak field, we do have some guys that just are typically, we were betting Shane Lowry a lot last year, like 25 and 30. Billy Horschel won a couple events last year, big events. Memorial's a tough track. Loves playing Florida golf. We know Sanjay likes Bermuda, has won here in the past. He's definitely kind of the belle of the ball here. Whereas you get into some guys where, maybe the form is a little bit better as of late, but they're not necessarily the class of golfer. So that's kind of how I see the week, in trying to understand, all right, like, yeah, you're like class golfer, you're going to have to pay the top of the board. And it's really hard, I think, to justify top of the board at this event with all the variance in it anyway, right? Like, because you mentioned water is in play, it, I think, really brings the field together too. Like, Sepp Straka wasn't on anyone's radar last year, but we really had the cream of the crop in the mix at the end with Lowry and Berger, but they kind of fell wayside with all the weather issues. So it is on top of all the other things. Weak field, tough track. I think it's a really tough place to handicap. I'm going to have a lighter outright card, and I'm going to have a lighter finishing position card all week, just because I think there's so much variance. It's a better live event, to be honest.
Yeah.
To bet into.
Well, not only that, but like we said earlier, it's like guys within. There's going to be a lot of guys within striking distance. This should be a compressed leaderboard, and yeah, Sung J M is the class here. Sung J M is the best golfer here. You know, with respect to Shane Lowry, just because he's scuffling a little lately, you can definitely make a case for him. But it is if you go into form and you start looking at long term, even short to medium term form, like Matt Kuchar is going to be a top 5 golfer if you're looking at form. You know, it's just he's up there, and yeah, the variance is going to be coming into play a lot. So,
Yep.
if Rory, Rahm, you know, peak Tiger, 1998 David Duval were here, you know, there was probably a case for like, hey, that guy's going to separate from the pack. But when I say like or even, you know, Lowry playing better is separated from the field, the separation is just so much smaller than if it were, you know, a really top end golfer. So it really makes it really does make a case for some high variance. It makes a case for some long shots here. And I think you just got to find some guys that really fit the mold for not ejecting, because you do need to be within striking distance. You need to find some guys who have had decent form, maybe have played well on tracks similar to this. I know Concession, I mean, other tough courses in the Southeast. There's a bunch of, yeah, I mean, even to a lesser degree, Sawgrass, like just you've played in this area, you've played okay. And it's crazy to say this because this is usually the opposite of what we say about golf. You can't be aggressive here. You have to like just realize, hey, par is a fine score here. Like, should I go for this or should I, you know, have like a 90% chance at par rather than a 10% chance at birdie with a really high long tail to, you know, shooting a 6 here. So I think if you can find some guys who are good at double bogey avoidance, 3-putt avoidance, have some decent track records with good approach games, maybe have, you know, outlier putting performances on Bermuda and have a huge number, like there's a really decent case to be like, hey, you should bet like 8 long shots here. And maybe if you have Rivers, or if you're in Europe, or if you're Canada or something, you have each way betting. I think it's a good week for that, because if you can find somebody like that who's 150 to 1, something like that, and you get an 8 place each way, I think that's a good spot for that as well. So yeah. I'm probably going to have a ton of longer prices here because, you know, you start doing course fit stuff, you're going to end up with some names that, you know, like Lee Hodges. It's like, you know, Lee Hodges is a good fit for this course. And obviously, you know who my number 2 for course fit here is. I'm looking right at you. I'm looking right into your eyes, into your heart.
Oh man, it's my guy. It's the week. This is it, Andy.
This might be the week. This has got to be the week. I just wanted to lead right into that. If we're going to talk outrights, obviously I'm skipping most of the top of the board, but should we just start with him?
It's time for Aaron Wise to get it done. Ball striking, scrambles well. Actually, scrambling and the putting has been tremendous. When you look at bogey avoidance, it's something that he does really well. The proximity ranges are maybe where you would downgrade him a little bit. He hasn't been great in like the mid iron range, but like shorter irons and longer irons, he's been really good. So, yeah, I just think that I think this is the week. 25s out there. Let me see. We still have, still 25, 27 allegedly on FanDuel, which is interesting. I didn't check this morning. On looking at odds boards, FanDuel has had odds for 24 hours. If you go onto the website or the app, there's nothing available. So I watched some people move on the odds board without actually, seeing lots of people complain about FanDuel not getting in. But Wise at 25. I just think this is the time for him. I do think that he is in the closer upper tier. Again, like he had a very valid case to making that last spot on the President's Cup team last year. Now, like, I don't think he got like hosed by Knott, them going with Kisner in that spot and stuff. But like, he's kind of, ascending. Like recent golf hasn't been great. Missed the last 2 cuts. But again, I'm peeling back a little bit into more longer term form, the course fit stuff that Andy's is talking about in reference to, the key stats for the week. And not only is it a guy that I'm going to click more times than not in a weak field, especially, he actually does fit this week too. So I feel really good about, leaning into Aaron Wise and that. God, I would love to just cross them off, move forward and cash this nice soft week. And then, just handle the rest of the season without having to jump into Aaron Wise. But yeah, 25's out there. I think it's a great number.
This is turning it. I mean, it's straight up just turning into, like Zal in the summer. We're going to keep betting this guy until he wins the goddamn event. Yeah. And thank God what was it? The BMW? Was it the first week of the playoffs he won?
Yeah, he won the St. Jude.
And then St. Jude, there you go. And then he had to sit out the rest of the year with the injury, and now he's still coming back. He is not here either.
He'd be great here, by the way. I would love Zal here. No. I'd pay like 5 or 6 for Zal here, especially in this field. Yeah, for sure.
So, and I did say long shots. I was close on Aaron Wise. I probably won't have him at this price. And I thought this was going to be a little deeper number too, but this is my guy. This is my Aaron Wise. This is heartbreak right in front of me at the 3M, losing to Cam Champ. Johnny Vegas is a good fit here too. Not a good putter. Never has been, never will be, but
has been here though.
Yeah, I was gonna say like
he has been here. Yeah,
we've seen it a little better on Bermuda, and he just fits the rest of the narrative, what have you, whatever else you want to say about Jonathan Vegas. Like we said, like driving distance does kind of matter. He's tops in that. He's gonna be top 10 as far as driving distance in this one. He's been decent in the, like I said, doubles avoiding, bogeys avoiding. He's a very good approach player. Like if he's making 10-foot par putts, he's in the top 10 here. Like he's probably top 5. If some of these longer, 10 to 12-foot putts that just curse him at other places are falling, he's going to play very well here. You should be able to get 30, maybe even a little better on him spots. I'm still shopping that around, but Vegas, after I clicked the Griffin one at 66, Vegas was the very next one for sure. So Jonathan Vegas spells his name a little funny, but that is because he's from like Venezuela or something.
Yes.
I'm trying to think, is it Venezuela?
Yeah.
Yes. South American. He's for a long time it'd be him and Grillo as far as top South American for when you can bet into that. He's like I said, bad putter, but Bermuda is the best of it. You're not going to get yourself, if you stay out of the water, you're not going to get yourself in trouble in these. They're saying like 2.5, 3 inches for the rough. But that ain't it. That's a lie. It is still February. I don't care. It's still kind of dormant. So that stuff isn't going to be super long. You're going to be just fine playing out of the rough here. If you're spraying it a little, just have to keep the ball dry. He played okay, on the West Coast swing. I think he missed at the Amex, but his the putting at the Genesis was horrid. That's where he was. Made the cut, like lost 7 strokes putting at the Genesis. That's kind of his MO. Same thing, RBC Canadian. He made the cut, finished 53rd because he lost 5.5 strokes putting. Like about once or twice a month, he's just going to do that sort of stuff. So, yeah, he was steamed. I did miss kind of the early number on that. I'm still shopping around. Very annoyed that I didn't get 45, but I just don't bet at DraftKings that often. So if you still like him, I'd say he's good at 30, 35. I'm still puttering around looking at seeing who has what on him.
Yeah, I had 45 early click on Monday morning. Sorry. Let me see. 29 on Chris. Yeah, it's down. I mean, 33 is basically 34 on FanDuel. Again, that's pretty much the best domestic number that I'm seeing. So, yeah, I mean, look, didn't play for a while. We didn't see him. He's come back and he's played really good golf. The ball striking has been tremendous. And, you look over the last 24 rounds. What do I have in the last 24 rounds? He is like one of the best in the field. And first off the tee, first tee to green in the last 24 rounds in this field. You mentioned the putting lost like 7 strokes at the Genesis, but there's been like field average here on multiple occasions, like 4 or 5 starts at this event. So he definitely prefers Bermuda, and then has shown an affinity here. And the one thing too, again, I've referenced this cool stuff that Data Golf has with their approach skills, little bucket thing that they have, and you can look at strokes gained in the proximity buckets, and you could do it from fairway and from the rough. And because like fairways, even though you're kind of clubbing down here a little bit, we do have a lower amount of like fairways here too. So you are going to find the rough. You mentioned they're talking about growing it up. I do kind of agree with you. I don't think it's going to be like Memorial in the middle of June or anything like that. But like over the last year, like Vegas is one of the best in the world at proximity from the rough, strokes gained approach from the rough, which is kind of wild. When you look at like the list of guys above him, like Lowry is way up there too, looking for guys in this field. But Johnny Vegas has been pretty terrific in the last year or so from the rough, and I think that matters here this week too. So yeah, I'm with you. Like I'm still fine if someone wanted to kind of jump in there, looking at the guys around him at 33.
Kind of last thought on him. I think a lot of that is because he's a huge friggin' dude.
Is a huge dude.
It's funny. The biggest takeaway I've had from watching golf live is, oh my God, you're so tiny. Everyone's so tiny. Like Usti, sorry, he's like 4'8". Like just a tiny. Some of these people are so little. And then you stand and then you stand next to Jonathan Vegas, and it's like, oh man, like you ever play football, bud? Like he'd probably be starting linebacker for the Texans right now. It's just that big dude. A lot of not only the club speed, but just the strength to swat through some of that rough. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue here. Obviously, you mentioned it's not going to be 4 inches of nastiness like you see sometimes, but he's always been fine out of the rough because he does have the strength to just bust through that. So love him here. I found a 33. I guess I'm going to be sad when he wins and I didn't click an early number. Now that football's over, I need to just get on it on Fridays, be ahead of the game a little. Not my forte, but I will be clicking this 33. So that'll be the lowest number I'll take this week. And I do not begrudge you and Aaron Wise. There's still 27s in the market. I think that's probably still bettable if you are of that mind. But for me, that's kind of the bottom for me is Vegas. I thought about Detry, couldn't quite get there. I have trouble. Some of the guys who don't have huge sample size putting it together, so I avoided him, and then I start drifting down the board a little.
Easy to drift down the board. There's some other guys that I think are of interest, but I also just can't pay that price. Chris Kirk, Matt Kuchar, you referenced. Like, I can't bet Kuchar at 25 in 2023. I know the ball striking was really great last week. You couldn't putt, which is not usually a situation. But yeah, I can't do the Kuchar thing. So Minwoo Lee again is like won some golf tournaments, played pretty well against some other guys comparatively. People love to click on JT Poston. Adam Svensson's a guy that I thought might be of interest to you this week. So I could see that next little tier being priced out for some people. Like Horschel's the one guy. Like it's not a guy I love to click, but I just feel like he's better than everyone. A lot of people around him. That was one guy that I consider. But in the void, scroll down is definitely you on the next group.
There's kind of a chunk of guys I looked at. Bramlett and Gordon I tossed out. EVR I tossed out, but Hayden Buckley at like 50 is pretty interesting. So I'm gonna shop. I don't know if there's probably better prices than that too. And again, sometimes I'm shopping live when we're doing this because I'm usually behind the game. But not only a good driver, average distance, but really good accuracy, really decent irons, and just we didn't see him last week at Genesis. It's the reason he missed the cut. His second shots were just so shitty. But almost won the Sony. Played well in Phoenix. Had a decent swing season, and I'm trying to look if he's missed cut here last year. Just played horribly, but he was kind of playing horribly at that time. So it's one of those two where again, when you look at form, you look at long-term form. There we go, 65-1 at BetOnline. Thanks, Quigley. So 65-1, that's for sure a bet. Like when I did course fit here, Buckley came out pretty high. When I did, form, it's decent. Bermuda is one of his better putting surfaces, and I couldn't avoid a guy who, again, it was par 4 scoring. He was top 10, doubles avoided. He was second in the field over the last 50 rounds. The approach game's above average. Missing the fairway was above average. Driving distance is above average. Scrambling was a little rough, but at 66, he's another guy where it's like, well, I'm going to take a shot at him. And I think he has the skill set to be just in that hanging around group where he's like 3 out on Saturday and you're feeling pretty good about somebody who's, down to 15-1. Yeah,
I like it.
I don't know if I've ever bet on Hayden Buckley before, to tell you the truth. So I'm not going to be like overly excited about basically anybody who makes my card this week, but they are still making my card, which is probably, these are smaller bets. I wanted your opinion on one other guy that kind of was in this spot, Nick Hardy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that could win this tournament, right? Nick Hardy almost won John Deere. Like you mentioned, like he got kind of hot for a while last year. I'm trying to look at where I have Nick Hardy. Ball striking is great. Top 10 in ball striking for me in the last 50 rounds. Greens and reg. A lot of the approach stuff hasn't been really good for Nick Hardy. And that would be a problem. Same thing, kind of middle of the pack in bogey avoidance. But again, like I think he's probably better than some of the guys he's grouped around. You're looking at 55s, actually some 70s. So again, FanDuel with their fake numbers has a 70 on Nick Hardy. Chris has 78. I'm guessing that's the number you're looking at.
Yeah, I was just looking at the bigger number, and like you mentioned, it's there's a weird dichotomy in his irons. Like approach has not been strong. Now, this is one I have to like dig in on. You look at it, it's like, hey, your approach game has not been great, but your greens and regulation number is pretty high among the field. Like I'm not sure how those two things jive together, if there's something going on there. So I'm going to dig in on him. Just didn't know if he had an opinion. And that is probably what's keeping me off him for right now. But it is an awful big number. You know who else popped and always pops? Fucking Cam Percy. He's like, he's like 300-1. I'm just going to say it right now. I will not bet Cam Percy. I do have to go do an experiment. I'm about to get hit with a snowstorm. They were saying like 25 inches of snow. But now it's moving north, and I think I'm avoiding the worst of it. I do have to drive down to Iowa because I got a DM, and I love getting good DMs from people with just little tidbits of info. This one was my favorite. I'm finding out that Iowa did some deregulation as far as draft betting. And this guy says, he's like, I live in Iowa, and I'm betting on the draft at DraftKings or FanDuel or wherever. So the fact that they deregulated that and I would be allowed to make draft prop bets down there is exciting, to the point where I believe this guy. But I'm for sure going to go check myself just to make sure this works. Plus I have all those accounts I signed up for in Arizona that I have to check, like, can I use that money up here or not? Otherwise I have to pull it out. So I'm going to pop down to Iowa. And it's wild that of like the 15 offshore books I have, none of them offer top 40 prices. And I love a top 40 price. So that is kind of the long way around. Cam Percy, top 40 is probably going to make my card, just because this guy is either going to shoot 13 over and withdraw, or he's going to be in contention kind of with his skill set. So I like him quite a bit here, but certainly not making a case for a 300-1. Although if there were a week,
right? Like, right, for sure.
300-1. Maybe this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, overall for me, last 50 rounds, Cam Percy is 20th. Around like ahead of Chris Kirk and Will Gordon, who people love to bet on. So yeah, Svensson, like, yeah. So I get it with the Cam Percy thing. Two other guys that I bet on, I have 4 outrights. We mentioned Wise in Vegas. And the other 2 guys you mentioned already. I'm also with you on the Ben Griffin thing. I've bet this guy a bunch already. And Ben Griffin is 5th for me in the last 50 rounds. He's like basically borderline top 10 in all these things: bogey avoidance, approach, par 4 scoring. He's 2nd. Ball striking overall has been great. Can scramble a little bit. Proximity, especially on short irons, has been pretty terrific. So like, I got an 80 early on Monday. Just is too long of a number. And in an event like this, like, I think these guys are obviously very much in play. So Ben Griffin, I thought early in the year would be a guy that, based off of his profile and how he's trending, and I think you did a good job at making me feel even better about it. If it's we're having like these random blow up holes. Again, that's not the course. This isn't the place we want to be, because this place is prone to driving you to a lot of blow up holes. But again, like, bogey avoidance, he's 11th. So if he can kind of keep it chill, I think he'll be in the mix here. And I think 80 is just too long in this field with his profile. And Lee Hodges, like, FanDuel, again, it looks like they're up and running. Thanks to Matt giving us a shout out here. Hodges was posted at 60 on FanDuel. That never really was available. I grabbed the 50 because I thought that was going to go away because he was moving down to 40 in some spots. And I mean, Hodges was in the mix last week in a tough field, but obviously profiles in the same way. Very similar profile to Ben Griffin. He actually ranks out second for me in this field over the last 50 rounds and all the key stats that I'm giving credit to. So approach, bogey avoidance, ball striking overall, pretty solid in all the proximity buckets, like can scramble. So yeah, Hodges at 50, I think is very much in play here.
All right, I'll add Hodges. I was looking for one more, and I brought him up earlier, and you kind of talked me into it. So Hodges makes my card for basically all the same reasons, and there's a 55 at Chris. So
yeah, that's nice.
Kind of gonna bet into that. Smaller bets this week, but Hodges makes the card. And then one last one, and honestly, it's wild that the best number isn't it, Chris? Often it is, which is a kind of a blessing and a curse sometimes. Russell Knox. If you just want to bet somebody with a really good approach game at a 3-digit number, he's 100-1 basically everywhere. If you hunt around, you should be able to find even better than that. Russell Knox is someone I've bet. Somebody in a chat asked about him, and I said, I've bet him at much tougher events than this. Like, I've bet him against good fields at big numbers. So, like, I don't know what would be stopping me here. Russell Knox for sure makes the card. If you look at just approach over the last, whatever, I think I have 50 pulled up here. He's top 5.
Yeah,
he's a very above average ball striker, especially in this field. Struggles a little off the tee, but I hope some of that will be mitigated by the fact that we're going to be clubbing down. And yeah, he's another one too, where this is probably, if I do go, and I will go down to Iowa, this is a top 40 bet as well, top 20, top 40 kind of thing. So Knox is on the card, and it wasn't even close to not having that. 125 at Bet Online. That's a bet.
130 on DraftKings. I totally agree that by far the best 100 or longer bet on the board is Russell Knox for sure. Plays nice in the wind. Again, the Scott, he was in the mix. Remember last year,
yep.
Or even 2 years ago, the last couple of years at Sawgrass, it's kind of got a little hairy with the weather, and Russell Knox is in the mix. Very comfortable, can strike the hell out of it when you don't have to worry about the off the tee stuff in the distance, just kind of leaning on ball striking. He's like Vegas can't really putt. If you get anything like resembling field average from Russell Knox, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself. But yeah, he is definitely, I think, the play if you're looking to sprinkle at 100 or longer. And again, like I think it makes sense to do that this week. Most of my guys are a tick above, with kind of where I went. I think that there are some bullets to be had on the weekend based off of, as you said, like it's going to be bunched up. We're going to probably have some weather advantages and swings where you can see a guy who's like, oh yeah, he's in 16th place, but he's really just 2 shots back and has a better wave advantage and is significantly better than most of the guys ahead of him. There might be some opportunities to bet in live this weekend that I'm going to save some bullets for. So, but yeah, Knox is a T40 is a great play too.
You kind of read my mind on that. I was thinking similarly as far as saving some money for some live bets. This is a spot where it's not on the ocean, but it's like 5 miles from the ocean, man. I mean, you do get and it's flat. There's not a ton of trees and spots. You're not getting a lot of weather protection. If it's windy, it's going to be very windy at times. And there is a case where this is a full field event. This is a spot where we have the full split. You have, the morning tee times with the afternoon tee times, rather than some of the, we've had a lot of events here where it's like, that just doesn't matter. It's a smaller field, or, in the cases they're playing 3 courses for half of the goddamn California swing. It doesn't matter. Everyone's teeing off between like 7 and 10 a.m. There's no wave advantage. This is the start of the true wave advantage. If you're a first round leader guy, if you're a DFS player, it's not going to be every week, but the difference, like I'm looking tomorrow, the difference at 7 a.m. is no wind. And then at 2 p.m., 18 miles an hour. There's going to be a pretty big difference. And again, we're trying to predict things that are happening 4 or 5 days. And there's people who have college degrees who do this are horrible at it. Weathermen are horrible in general. But for the most part, there is just it's by the sea. And this is how things work. The afternoon winds always pick up. Go look at the wind charts for any city that's next to the ocean. It's slower in the morning and it's heavier in the afternoon. It's not just the fact that it's tougher to play with wind blowing. It's going to dry these greens out.
Yep.
And they're traditionally tougher to hold balls on to begin with. In the afternoon, if these greens really get dried out, you're going to see a lot of tough approach shots get exponentially tougher, running off into sand, running off into collection, running off into rough, fringe, God help us, water. So the winds in the afternoon really might be a big thing here if you are looking at, if you're looking at a first round leader. I'm sure Ron will have some information on that as far as historical performance of morning golfers here for first round leader for DFS stuff. Look for that stuff on the site. But there's a case for, hey, this guy played the super tough afternoon wave on Thursday. I liked him already. He played even par. I really think he got hosed and he's going to come out and shoot, 3-4 under tomorrow morning on Friday. Like, there's going to be a pretty good case to be adding some live guys from Thursday afternoon. So that's kind of some spots I've circled. Once I have all the tee times in front of me, I'm going to go circle guys I are borderline, people I'm borderline on betting right now that have Thursday afternoon tee times, and I'm just going to pay attention. And if one of those guys, you do kind of have to dig into the full round and kind of see what happened.
Yeah.
And maybe probably watch a lot of golf Thursday afternoon, which shucks, I guess I'll do that instead of working. But I'm going to watch a lot of the afternoon rounds and look at just what Ryan said. They're entering live on some of these outrights once we get a full day of golf in.
I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to do it on Friday because of the ability to eject here. I want to know that you made the cut. Because this is a spot where you can go full Keegan. This isn't the spot where he went full Keegan, but it was a Florida track. So you just can have these blow up rounds. I'm going to make sure you get on the other side of it and then see if we can do the same thing that Andy said to just catch you in the better wave in the afternoon, or see if there was a little bit of, wave variance to where you finished Thursday and Friday. Just make sure you get on the other side of it. But if there's some of these guys that are of interest, that are a little bit longer, mentioned, I'm not in on Buckley, but Buckley is a guy that I would get in on, if that made sense. Nick Hardy, Danny Willett, Davis Riley. Davis Riley's been playing pretty terrible golf, but I feel like he's pedigree is late, and he's seen a little bit. He's in the mix. Maybe we add a Davis Riley or something like that. As a live ad. So definitely the best way to do it. Take it easy this week. Save some money. We got API and the players on deck as well. Those are probably better to go a little bit harder at as well. Tiger, what'd you think?
I think he can win an event. I don't think he can win a big event.
Right?
But he played well enough where, and you're cutting out horribly right now. I can't hear you. I just heard Tiger. Now you're frozen. So I'll just talk. But yeah, he does seem like, I don't know. I was a little worried on Thursday. I didn't think it was, he looked still limpy. I know he's doing some different things with the physical therapy and working on getting right to walk that much. But I was really wanting him to make the cut for a lot of different reasons than most people. Like, everyone wanted to see him golf and just like more Tiger, or they bet the big plus number for make the cut. They were excited about winning a bet. I just wanted to see him Sunday after 3 days of walking the course and see what kind of shape he's in. And I, compared to what I saw on Thursday, I guess I was pretty impressed. I think he just needs to keep at it and keep working on, his fitness and how his legs are treating him, because the golf game's there. Like, it's not even half the battle. The golf game's there. It's the fitness and, his ability to walk the course. So we'll see. I'm expecting to see him at Augusta. I think he knows what he's in for. He knows how his body reacted to that. And I think he'll play sporadically enough where he's in good enough shape to go down and play, which is a tough walk. It's a very tough walk, like comparatively to some courses. So I expect to see him there. It'll be interesting to see if we get him at a few spots in between here and there. Love to see him at Players. I'd love to see him at an event that's like winnable. I don't want to say like, hey, go to go to Mexico or go to Puerto Rico and get a cheap one to break the tie. I want to see him win a decent event, but it would be cool to see him competing for something later on this year. Because,
Yeah.
like I said, that the game is still there, the golf is still there. It's just the rest of it, making sure you can physically able to walk that entire round, 4 rounds.
The fire's still there. Yeah, it was driving it well. I think we saw some bad putting occasionally, but yeah, it had hard not to be encouraged. And I don't think we see him at the Players, but maybe in the future we start to see a handful of more regular events. It feels like the Players would be the only thing that we would maybe see him at between now and Augusta. But
yeah, if I were him, that's what I kind of put the schedule together in my head. Said, man, if he plays one between here and because I think the actual answer is 0 events between here and April.
Yeah,
like he probably just works on his legs, works on his plays a lot of golf, but not at actual events. But it would be cool if anything, like you said, maybe the Players. That would be awesome. That's already an awesome event. The field's gonna be electric. If you add him in the mix, Jesus. So yeah, it was exciting. I was almost over it before it started because it was so much hullabaloo over a guy who was like 60% to miss the cut. It's like, all right, guys, it was just like temper your expectations. People were betting on him to win and stuff. It's like, well, I mean, do we need to do that? It's a fun ticket to cheer for. Just bet him to make the cut at that point. Or,
yeah,
on your PPHs that have like 38th or better or something like that. Make a bet like that. But I'm excited for it for sure. It sucks he's not going to go to any events I'm going to. I really doubt we'll see him at the 3M. I'll put that out there.
don't think we would. I don't think he goes to John Deere.
Barbasol, if anything, he'd go to Scotland, and he's not going to Scotland. So yeah, excited to see him at Augusta. That's what I want.
For sure.
That's all I need from that.
Yeah.
And we got a few minutes. Have we been spending 45 minutes talking about the second best event of the weekend?
That's fair. I mean, good for LIV to this is the right way to do it, right? Is to find these holes and just make it own the weekends. But can they? Like that's the thing, right? Now, this will be different this year because I guess we'll have, even though it's tape delayed, we will have TV coverage. I don't know. I'll be interested to see what happens here. But this is their start of their season. It's new teams. Again, I can't tell you who's on what team, or who are teammates.
Basically, just know the 4 aces, man.
Everyone knows the 4 aces. I mean,
everyone knows the 4 aces.
Yeah.
It's funny how bad Mickelson's team is, how bad some of these teams are. But yeah, Mayakoba, the 24th through the 26th, El Camino. And if anyone bets golf, you should be very familiar with this course. This is a tour stop. So we know a lot about this course. We have Tucson in March. We have Orlando after that. There's some weird spots. And the fun part is that they're going to play in Australia. Australian courses are generally really cool, if anyone's ever watched any of that. So I didn't bet into this market because it's the same thing. It's like, hey, here's DJ Cam Smith and Neiman and then a bunch of other guys. And I guess if you didn't want to bet anything, Patrick Reed played really well in the desert. As much of it, and we'll see what they let him get away with. Like if he can cheat, he can probably win this event. It's just like, it's in a tree again, guys. Just free drop, whatever. Impediment. It's a movable impediment.
Allegedly,
Andy. Allegedly. Yeah, I don't want to get added to the depositions here.
No.
Patrick Reed is like 16-1. He should be ahead of Neiman and Answer the way he played. Like I watched some of that. He was playing pretty good golf. Honestly, the Rory Reed playoff would have been just the most electric thing in the world. So there's not a lot of other names I'd be super excited about betting. Varner at 33.
The thing about Mayakoba though is it is one of those courses that brings everyone together because it's not a big distance track. It is kind of a positional golf place. So like it does, and I don't think that that's what LIV wants, to be honest. I think they'd love to see DJ or Cam or one of their, Brooks. I would love to see someone move the needle and show up there. But yeah, I think it's a track that kind of brings the whole field into play. So interested to see what, sort of TV numbers it does. It's again, it's going to make for the majors to be outstanding to see these guys, come in and see what happens there with, especially the big dogs, especially with the guys that have, free passes to come in.
Yeah, I tried to make a parlay for Danny Lee to win this event with Danny Lee to win
Both.
the Honda. It's not letting me. But that would pay pretty good. He is listed in both fields. And since we've done this live show, if you were listening to this live, if you're listening to this later, you'll obviously have seen it. But he did pull out of the Honda just now.
Okay.
So
there we go.
He is full on LIV. The LIV names they've gotten this year haven't been huge, but it still continues. And like you said, they did a really good job of scheduling.
Yeah.
Like they're up against this, they're up against like the John Deere, they're up against some really lower tier events. Like they figured it out. They know what they're doing as far as that goes. So I'll have to ask the kids know how to run the TV. I'll have to figure out if I have the CW. I liked it when it was just on YouTube. That was so easy. Like everyone's like, "Oh, it's just on YouTube." Like, yeah, motherfucker, that's how we watch stuff nowadays.
It's true. Actually.
Like I didn't mind that at all. It was so easy to find.
It's the same channel where you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Same channel.
Yeah, I will. I'll look into that. So we have DirecTV at the house, so I probably have the CW. But what do you mean time delay? Like, isn't it just how much delayed will it be?
I heard that there's a time delay, but I don't know if that's for all the rounds or it's going to be like the NBA in the early 80s. We're going to get, we're going to know what happened live, and then we're going to be watching it back. I read something yesterday. I think it might have been Daniel Rappaport who had reported that. But I'll find it and send it to you.
It's kind of just like the real PGA, like on like Sunday, on Sunday afternoon when they show like Tommy Gainey and here's Tommy Gainey. He's 18 off the lead with a chip from the fairway. And I was like, well, he's going to make this. Like there's no other reason to show Tommy Gainey at this point, guys. So it's kind of like that, but it'll be interesting. I'll watch and I'll report back. So
currently not available on any domestics to bet on. So
how many all rights did you have then? 4?
4. Wise, Vegas, Hodges, Ben Griffin.
Yeah, so me, Buckley, Griffin, Lee Hodges, you tricked me into, Johnny Vegas, and then Russell Knox. Jesus, Sandy. Russell Knox. And then looking at Knox and Cam Percy, top 20, top 40 kind of prices. So with that, we'll catch you guys next week. If you are into the DFS, be sure to check out the DFS guys show tomorrow afternoon. We'll go over ownership, builds, and all other DFS stuff. All our other stuff can be found at betsportsgolf.com. The Discord, the members only Discord, the articles, some premium content in there. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next week for API. Oh, I love that one. So
yeah.
See ya.